So I'm here with Augusto, and we're in the Wallace collection doing a bit of filming, and we've been here with Dr. Capwell today, talking about all sorts of things. But we're just going around looking at the swords, and Augusto was surprised to see this sword, were you?
I indeed was.
Why were you surprised by it?
Well, it does have a two-handed grip, but it also has a guard on it, not only a knuckleball, but it's almost like a semi-basket hilt, I don't know how you could call it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a basket hilt saber guard on a longsword grip with longsword quillons, kind of. But then let's have a look at the blade, if I just move over here. So let's go scan down the blade. Apologies for the autofocus, but it wants to try and focus on the glass rather than the blade. We come down, 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 down. Oh, what's that? It's a saber. Okay, so it's a slightly curved sword, and this is called, it's commonly called today, this is not a historical name for it, it's commonly called today a Swiss saber. Okay, and the combinations that you find with a Swiss saber is usually something like a longsword hilt, sometimes a Langmesser hilt, with a more or less complex guard. But then importantly, it has an elongated saber blade. It is very slightly curved, it's not super curved. And notice also, interesting feature, it has a kind of stepped out wide bit at the base of the blade there. So it comes down from the guard, down, 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 then it steps in. This may possibly be emulating Turkish swords of the same period. It may be emulating the kilich, and again that might be echoed here with this false edge. Can you see the false edge steps up slightly, a bit like the Yelman on a Turkish kilich? So my interpretation would be that this is either emulating further Eastern European sabres that were coming in, again probably partly with Turkish influence, or indeed it's just directly modelling Turkish swords at the time. And we can see it's got a what's sometimes called a writhen pommel, quite Germanic style of the period. And then it's got a fairly typical longsword grip, which has got cord over wood covered in leather. And then it's got this very interesting, it's not really a D-ring, it's more like a trefoil. It's almost like a lucky three-leaf clover as a side guard, and then S quillons at the back going to the outside to protect your forearm, and to the front going to the inside to protect your inner fingers and inner arm. And then at the front it's got essentially a basket hilt. You can see there 2 bars with an S in the middle. So yeah, you've got a longsword basket hilt saber. So there we go. It is a fairly unusual sword, but it's not super unusual. There are other examples in other collections. I think the Royal Armouries have one as well. And they're very commonly associated with Switzerland, although I don't know how whether this is actually Swiss. I mean, it could be German for all I know.
When did this date again? What's
so
the date?
They're 16th century.
16th century.
Yeah. And they seem to, I haven't really researched them specifically, but they seem to, let's say, I think they're sort of early to mid 16th century. This is the sort of period I think you're looking at. Let's say mid 16th century. I think that they more or less disappear by the late 16th century. And next to it, while we're here, may as well talk about that very briefly, is essentially a late development of the Langmesser. So again, it looks like a saber blade with a stepped up Yelman or false edge at the back, and multiple fullers, a side ring, and then a Messer hilt. And the Messer hilt itself, with that dropped down front quillon, front guard, and dropping or moving upwards rear guard, is actually a style of guard you can find going all the way back into the early 15th century, but without the side ring. So the side ring is really what marks this out as being a 16th century sword. Although side rings did appear just slightly before the 16th century, this is a 16th century Messer, Langmesser essentially. And also, you might think that that's small, that one, but it's actually not. It's pretty much typical arming sword size. It's just that the Swiss saber next to it is full longsword length. So what you've essentially got there is a one-handed sword and a long sword next to each other. Anyway, say goodbye.
Bye!
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We have extra videos on Patreon, and you can follow us on Facebook.